Welcome back, everybody. Let's open in prayer. Almighty God in heaven, we thank you again for the privilege of working in your vineyard, and we pray your Holy Spirit be with us now in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so we thought we'd look at the repeating pattern. The break gave me time to draw all this out. And the whole purpose of this is to see if we can move the mark of the beast test from here to the loud cry using the repeating pattern. So one thing Elder Parminder does is you go straight to the original and you find out what that's saying. So Boston, Concord, Exeter test. I can't remember the dates of Concord and Exeter. I think one of them was September 1st. If anyone can remember the dates, can you shout out? But this is Samuel Snow, the second angel's message in 1844. And Boston was July 21st. I should note that the waymark before would, the major waymark before would be August 11th, 1840. Okay, so Samuel Snow, his message is unsealed on July 21st, Boston. Then Concord, I wish I knew the dates. There's another campaign, August?
1st.
Yeah. August 14, wasn't it?
1st of August, then 15th of August, Exeter.
I think it's August 14.
August 1. I don't
Is it
think
August
it's
1?
Yes.
Not
Yeah, August 1, then September, no, sorry, then August 15th, sorry.
14th. August 14th to 18th, I think.
okay. I'll put 14 because that's Acts 27, the 14th night. So that's correct now, is it? Okay. So Boston then increase of knowledge in Concord, and it was formalized in Exeter, and you're tested on October 22nd. If you pass this material, this message. Okay. So you can see, I don't have room to do my little arrow. At Exeter, you've got to learn that message because you're going to be tested on it in the future. That's where you sit your test. This is the original model. On August the 14th at Exeter, are you being tested on the previous major waymark? Islam in Bible prophecy, August 11th, 1840, the fall of the Ottoman Empire. For time, I'll answer myself because it's obvious. The answer is no. Okay, this whole message that's being unsealed and increased of knowledge and formalized is all on October 22nd, 1840. Samuel Snow says, I know the date, Day of Atonement, all of that, the fullness of the year, all to do with this forward-pointing test. You don't take your test here, by the way. You're not tested here. This is where you learn your material. If you're in university, this is your syllabus. And then you learn your syllabus, and then you come back and you sit your exam on this date. You don't sit your exam on this date. On this date, you sit your exam and you're going to be tested on this material. Okay, so I'm just going to jump straight to this one, so I'll keep referring back to it. Boston, Concord, Exeter, test. If you do the original model, at the loud cry is when you're given some material to be tested in the future at that waymark on Daniel 12:1, not backwards. There's one original model, the second angel's message. The other original model is the first angel's message. So we'll jump to here. because these are the camp meetings, but this is first angel's message terminology. Unsealing, increase of knowledge, formalization, test. So on August 11th, 1840, you're going to be tested on something. What are you tested on? Day for a year. Josiah Litch says, if William Miller's correct, this is the first angel's message being unsealed, and in 1818 you're going to get an increase of knowledge. And in 1833, Miller formalizes his message, and he says, if day for a year is correct, then Jesus should come about the time 1843. Okay. And then Josiah Litch comes along and says, well, if Miller's right, then I'm going to look at Revelation 9 and do day for a year. And I'm going to test this. This is day for a year. You're going to get tested on day for a year on August 11th, 1840. Does that make sense? I'll ask the same question. At this formalization in 1833, are you being tested on Napoleon taking the Pope captive? No. Okay, so there's your two original models, which say this. So let's start here. Please do shout out, don't forget. 4 BC, unsealing. John the Baptist's preaching, his message, is the increase of knowledge and the formalization. Is John the Baptist's message, hey everyone, Messiah was born 20 years ago. 4 BC, Messiah was born. No, it's not backwards looking. John the Baptist's message is, make straight the ways, the Messiah's coming in the future. You better recognize him. So this is the formalization, and here you're tested, okay? And you're not tested at the formalization. You're tested at the next major waymark, 27 AD. John the Baptist has been telling you the Messiah is coming, and at 27 AD at the River Jordan, the Messiah comes. And God says, this is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased. Holy Spirit says, yes, it is, and lands on him. And John the Baptist says, behold the Messiah, I'm not, you should baptize me, whatever he says. So you've got your three witnesses from the Holy Spirit, God, and John the Baptist. This is the Messiah, that this message is true and correct. And so if you don't pass this test at the River Jordan, you failed. So what I'm trying to say is, you're tested here on the formalization. Okay, you're not tested on the formalization on 4 BC. Same here. Okay, this is the formalization. You've got the increase of knowledge of the cross, you've got Pentecost, the formalization. At the formalization at Pentecost, are you being tested on Jesus' baptism? At Pentecost, are you being tested if Jesus was the Messiah? No. Pentecost is the outpouring of the Holy Spirit. And this is when the gospel is taken to the Gentiles. And you've got to speak tongues to do that because you don't have the language apps that you have today. Okay? So at this formalization, you're not being tested backwards on the baptism. You pass this test here if you believe this message, okay, that the gospel goes to the Gentiles now, under the Holy Spirit. Okay, now this, ask questions if you want, I won't preempt them. But here, you've got unsealing, increase of knowledge, formalization. 63 AD is the increase of knowledge, because for 7 years, that guy in Jerusalem walked up and down the streets saying, woe, 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 woe from the four winds. Basically, we're all going to die. And you remember the clouds were like chariots in battle and all of that. So there's your 7 years. There's your increase of knowledge on what's going to happen in 70 AD. This is not an increase of knowledge on taking the gospel to the Gentiles. This guy in Jerusalem is warning you about 70 AD, forwards looking. 66 is when Titus first surrounds Jerusalem. So now you know what it's going to look like, but you know what 70 AD is going to look like. This is also known as the agitation, when you know what the next major waymark looks like, forward pointing. This is not, this formalization, when Titus shows up, everyone doesn't go, oh, we've just been tested on bringing the gospel to the Gentiles. It's not backwards looking, just as this loud cry does not test you on the Sunday Law 2024. 66, you know what it's going to look like, and you better flee Jerusalem. Cestius, thank you. I knew I got it. Okay. It wasn't Titus, it was Cestius, something like that. And then Cestius goes back to deal with some other problem. And then in 70 AD, I think that's Titus, comes back and destroys Jerusalem. Okay. So if you want to pass this test in 70 AD, you need to understand this formalization or you will die. Same here, we don't have any dates. But this is the death decree when they tried to boil John in oil. I think you got to really hate someone to do that. And this waymark is where you get the day and the hour of the second advent. That's wrong. It doesn't belong there. So I don't have any light on this period here. I'll skip down because I've already mentioned it. When you get to the line of the 144,000 during the harvest, this formalization is time. You get the day and the hour. Are you being given the day and the hour on Daniel 12:1? Is it backward? Is it a test for the previous major waymark? No. You get the day and the hour of the second advent. And I would say you sit your final test here, but you won't be sitting, you'll be flying. So I don't think you have much choice. You pass that test. You just get drawn up into the air. Any questions so far?
There's a raised hand from Grace.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I think I'll begin my questions from where you began from, and that is I think you disagreed with the internal model of the King of the South, which Elder Terry marks as the death of Navalny. And I'll proceed with my questions because I'm kind of confused in the way you are making your applications to say. So from before you changed your mind to supporting Elder Terry, I think you had showed us that, and you had quoted Elder Tess, I remember, where she spoke and stressed more on the importance of January 6, 2021, the insurrection, the capital attack. And that is one of the primary reasons you gave for your Sunday law being 2025, because you said, I remember if I quoted you correctly, you said that Tess said in 2021, it was pointing to Sunday law. And when you came to 2025 elections, that is the connection you made. But also, the same test we are quoting, when we are dealing with the concept of the King of the North, the King of the South, if I'm not wrong, she gave us this model that the King of the North is equal to the King of the South because the two are polar opposites. The King of the North is church over state. The King of the South is state over church. And she continued and showed us the US in two steps. First, the internal, and then the external. The same because they are the same. Because the same, I mean, the King of the North and the King of the South, they are the same. Therefore, we have to see the same concept with the King of the South. First, the internal, and then the external. Because in the US, we will see Daniel 11, verse 41, dealing the King of the North dealing with the glorious land, verse 42, king of the north dealing with the world. So I don't know how you're going to handle this concept of elder test, because I hear you quote elder test severally, how you are going to reconcile the two concepts of first the internal, then the external, but you cannot see that the death of the king of the south internally, the death of Navalny. I think I've heard you disagree that you don't see it. Therefore, I'm saying that I don't see whether you agree with the concept of elder test she laid out. And also, the one you have just dealt with, the concept of repeating patterns, I don't know whether it's a new development that I'm not aware, because I see that you are showing us the test. For example, we are in the Sunday law. We are past that point. We are past 2024. Yes, 2031. So already, if I've understood you correct, already you are showing us that by the time we come to 2024, already we are tested on Sunday law. So take that concept and take us to the last part of that reform line. That is from Sunday law to close of probation. I expect to see the same explanation that you have given us, because yes, Sunday law to close of probation and close of probation to second advent. Because if already we are tested in 2024, I don't know what tested us. I'm confused. And we will be tested on the message in the dispensation, which we will be tested on COP. How then is it going to play out in the dispensation of close of probation? Because that test, you have to push it forward past second advent. Can you explain that, please? I ask another question.
Okay, you had two questions. The first one was on the part one today, internal, external. You said it was a good model, and I agree. That's why I bought into it, studied it, taught it at least half a dozen times, I think. I don't know. But you've got to be able to answer all the questions. And if you can't answer a major question, then you've got to admit, as much as you love it, I always ask people to be objective, not subjective. And let your feelings get involved. If you can't answer a question, you've got to admit it could be wrong. And if it could be wrong, I'm going to stop teaching. It could be right. And someone else can figure out how the death of Navalny was a defeat for Putin, or something else in 2024 was a defeat for Putin. So you're right. Internal, external, good methodology, triple application prophecy, compare and contrast, end from the beginning, all good methodology. But when you try to apply it to 2024, it doesn't seem to work. This is also a death of the King of the South. No, it's not. It's a defeat. Scrap that. Ignore me. So that's all I can answer about your first question. Maybe it just doesn't go there. Maybe the way Elder Test taught it originally was correct. But that's the complete and final death of the King of the South, because he loses proxies. I can send you the clip, but you'll have to remind me. Okay, second question. This is what I used to teach, and now I believe this still. Okay, that January the 6th is the formalization, and I've already presented a war of narratives where Elder Tess does this. She says January the 6th fits at the formalization pannium. Okay, I know I'm opening myself for criticism, she says, but it goes there because January the 6th tells you when the Sunday law date is. Okay, November 5th. And this is time. The formalization is always time. You can see that here when we get there. Okay, this formalization is time. This formalization was time. So if this isn't true, you tell me what was the time prediction for the Sunday law at Panium? You don't have one. So you can see it lines up with this prediction. We should have the time of the Sunday law here. And you said, so what is it? What do you test? And it's November the 5th is your test. Who you vote for? Do you vote for a known dictator? He proved he was a dictator on January the 6th, trying to overthrow an election. Okay, because democracy is free and fair elections, dictatorship is a coup, denying election results, etc. Was that both your questions? There was nothing else, was there?
Sorry, I think you also said when we were dealing with 2021, when you stopped your studies and began supporting Elder Terry's study, that you could no longer support that concept the way you're approaching your concept of identifying a Sunday law date. And you began agreeing that you began telling us that you agree with your. So on what point do you agree with her? Because I don't think, much as you are viewing my my comments as being objective rather than being subjective, I don't think you agree with Terry. I don't think you agree with Curtis, because the Elder Terry, Paminda, Curtis, I think they agree. They agree. So they are
Yes, I
studies.
agree with
They
you.
agree. What is
On
this
this-
point that you are agreeing with her, other than the Sunday law date being July 2024? What is this that you are agreeing apart from Sunday law dates?
That's it. The July 18 was the setting up of the image. That's it. But now she agrees July 18 to December 17 is the Sunday law waymark. So we agree on that too.
Yes, he agrees.
I don't agree that she can move the test to the loud cry. I don't agree that the King of the North is only Maga. I hope we can do that because that's compelling. That's why I kind of, if you noticed, I'm rushing. And then you asked something about what's going to happen here. I don't know. I've never been able to innovate or figure things out for myself. Okay. Is that okay?
The reason why I asked that is because you showed us that we are being tested on, already we are tested in 2024. We're headed to close of probation. The test between 2024 and close of probation, it is not at Exeter Waymark, if I heard you correct. Is that what you said? Yes.
So this is a test waymark. So this is the time that you're tested, but you're tested on this material. So as we're here, let's just do that one. This is the unsealing. 2019, feminism is an increase of knowledge. Is feminism testing you on the third woe, the east wind? Who the army of Rome is? Obviously not. Feminism is testing you on the Sunday law. 2021 is the formalization, internally radical feminism. Radical feminism, this formalization, testing you on the previous waymark, Islam in Bible prophecy. Radical feminism doesn't test you on the east wind. It tests you on the Sunday law, patriarchy. Okay. So this loud cry does not test you. It's not the test. It's not even a test. It's a formalization. This is the test, and this is the test. So to even say that is where you sit your test is just wrong. Okay, you can go to the original model if you like. That was the shut door because you pass or fail your test there. Okay. So feminism, radical feminism tests you on the Sunday law, not Islam and the Bible prophecy. We've got some places left. Okay, so here, 1989 is line upon line. 1991, Daniel 11, 40 to 45. 1996, formalization is Time of the End magazine, which is the same as Daniel 11:40 to 45. It's just formalized. And 2001 is your test. Okay, so you're tested on this booklet. You're not tested in 1996. You don't pass or fail your test in 1996. You're tested here. Okay, so line upon line is repeat of history, which is triple application of prophecy. First row plus second row equals third. Daniel 11:40 to 45 tells you who the army of Rome is, because the east wind first hurts, then kills the army of Rome. So here you're being told that history will repeat, and here you're being told the army of Rome is America. And here, the east wind first hurts the army of Rome, America, on 9/11. So when you see 9/11, you're being tested if you believe who the army of Rome is and if history repeats. Okay? Does that make sense?
Maybe, okay, maybe I'll get it. Maybe I'll get it later. For now, it's a bit technical because all of us are quoting Elder Tess. Either we are quoting her correctly or incorrectly. Yeah, thank you.
Elder Terry or Elder Tess? This is what Elder Tess teaches. So this is what Elder Tess teaches. I've only ever watched Jeff, Paminda, and Tess. And sometimes I've been asked to review some other videos. That's the only time I might watch anyone else. So I don't have anything in there from anyone else. Okay. We've already done that here. That's the same way marks. So we'll just do these last three. 2001 unsealing. Nothing's really happening. 1798. Nothing's really happening. Miller is not even a Christian. He's a deist. He's not studied. Okay, so unsealing here on this message. 2009 is the increase of knowledge. It's the 2520. The 2520 is the key which unlocks time. Elder Parminder did a 20 or 25-hour series on the 2520 in 2009. 2012 was Elder Parminder's prediction of the Sunday law in 2014. So this is a formalization, Elder Parminder's prediction, time setting, and he's saying 2014 is the Sunday law. In 2014, you get tested on Elder Parminder's prediction. Okay. You're not tested in 2012, Elder Parminder's prediction on 9/11 or 11/9 or East Wind or anything like that. In 2012 tests you on 2014 forward looking. Last one, 2014 unsealing. This is Elder Tess's dispensation. That was Elder Parminder's. She's not doing anything. She doesn't even pay attention to the movement until December 2015 when Mark Bruce goes to Australia. And she's asked to do the cooking. So she's not doing anything, just like Miller's not doing anything at the unsealing. 2016 is Acts 27. Okay? Does Acts 27 tell you about the previous Sunday law? No. 2018 is time, like we said. The formalization is time, and it's two streams. Okay, that's the takeaway from her midnight cry message. And she's telling you that 2019 is the shut door to the priests in 2019. That's the time element of that message. The other element is two streams, which is telling you that when she presents feminism in 2019, you better be on the right stream. In 2019, feminism, you're being tested if you're on two streams. If you're on the right stream, the left. Did you shift to the left? Here. Okay, I think that's enough. There isn't a single one that points backwards. I will give you an argument and then answer it. Some people say, in 2009, we were also looking at other doctrines, judgment of the living, stone of Daniel 2. I think we started looking at, nature of humanity. When we went through steps to Christ, I think you remember. But the repeating pattern is a very limited, restricted pattern. And it only takes one doctrine out of any year as part of the increase of knowledge or the formalization. For example, you could argue in 2018, Elder Tess was telling us all about the Sunday law in 2014. So it does point backwards, okay? But that's not the formalization. Okay? It was the midnight cry message, but it wasn't the formalization. The doctrine that goes under the formalization here is two streams. Elder Tess taught that because, like I just said, in 2019, you're going to be taught feminism. You're going to be tested on two streams. Okay? But you can say, well, we were unpacking the Sunday law here, so we're unpacking the Sunday law here. Fine, I agree with that. You should be looking back at 2025. Sorry. I don't want to mislead people. I'm not saying November 5th alone is the Sunday. It was just in answer to that. Okay, you can still be looking back at it, but it doesn't make it the test of the formalization. In 2018, Elder Tess was looking a lot at 1996, but that doesn't make 1996 the formalization. Formalization is just two streams. Okay, so you could be on any waymark and look back and unpack something. There's nothing wrong with me studying 2520 today. Or let's say Elder Terry starts going back over the 2520. That doesn't make it this. Just because it's happening, you know, somewhere at this waymark, it doesn't make it the doctrine under the repeating pattern. Does that make sense? Okay, so I put November 5th here only because that's the date I put the test at. You can't put the test here. That's not even a test. That's Exeter, and there is the test. Or even if you said there is the test, but you can't move the test to the formalization. Okay, don't forget, this is all Elder Tess. As I say, I don't innovate. I can't figure things out for myself. Someone who's in the audience today did ask me in 2022 or 2023, we've already passed Panium, which is the formalization, which is where you get time for the Sunday law. So how come we haven't been given it? And I said, well, maybe we have figured it out and it's about to be presented, okay, because that's what was going to happen. If you remember that. It didn't get presented because Elder Tess retired. Okay, any questions on that? Any thoughts? Anything in the chat? I haven't been watching.
Do we have 4 hands raised?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Sabina first.
Thank you for the study.
Thank you.
So my question is about what you have finished with. I think the repeating pattern. So I think if I just go to where we get the concept of post-Concord Exeter from the mirror rate history. So we see that it's one message that is going to swell it onto the test to the shuttle. Now, I don't know whether it's me who have misunderstood you, how you have explained it, that from 1989, if I just take it as an example, 1989, you have a message that is going to be unsealed, get increased in knowledge packed to the people, then test the people. Then why are you separating the formalization message from the message that was unsealed? Because I believe Poston is both a shuttle and an increase and an unsealing of a message. That's my question.
You're correct. Boston is both an unsealing and a test. So this is the material you're tested on. You're tested on that waymark or that day, whatever. It's a shut door for that dispensation. And then now there's a new unsealing on this message. which swells. So you're correct. You said something else. It's a shut door, yeah. You can see the shut door clearly here in the original model. Does that answer your question? Did I miss something?
I was wanting some clarity whether we are separating the message that was arrived at Poston and the message that is formalized, because you are saying at formalization, it's when that is the message that is going to test you. So I just wanted clarity on that. And the second one is when you come to the Sunday law, which you've marked as the book ending, you've marked the mark of the beast. Now, my question is the mark of the beast coming the previous dispensation, which is the early rain dispensation, or the test of that mark of the beast is the dispensation of the latter rain, or it's on the single way mark?
Okay, so first question, I'm not separating Boston from formalization. It's the same message. This is all Miller. It's all Miller's message. This unsealing is 1A. One is the first message is Miller. This is the formalization of the first angel's message. Same here, same with everything. This is all Elder Jeff. This is all Elder Parminder's time setting message. And this is all Elder Tess's two streams message. So I'm not separating the message of Boston from Exeter. And the way you said it, yes, we tested here on this early rain message, which means you're tested here on the latter rain message. Does that make sense?
Okay, thank you.
Did you say there's other hands up?
Yes. Snyder?
Okay, thanks. So I have a question, another question actually. Before that question, I think back in 2021, if I remember correctly, I think there was always this occurring question in the movement, when is Paniam? I think that was one question we used to ask. And I think another question is, when are we giving the time of the Sunday law? And if I remember correctly, one of the arguments that was given was time is no longer our test. So the element of time is no longer attached to this formalization of the message of the Sunday law. So I think that really rested the issue of time per se. And I've been trying to follow what you're saying, and I'm looking at the Millerite history and focusing on October 22, 1844 reminds me of Matthew 25 and the shut door. And I think we know when we come to the shut door, there's nothing you can do at the shut door. Like when the virgins are coming, quote unquote, the foolish virgins are coming back and the door is already shut. Like, do you see that as a test for them? Because in my mind, I see like that is already done. When the cry was made, behold, the bridegroom cometh, and they realized, oh, we don't have oil. And they feel that they are not prepared and they technically choose the wrong experience, and the voice virgins have the correct experience. So when we come to like the shut door, there's nothing they're going to do there that will really essentially change anything. So when you say it's a test, considering it's a shadow, what do you mean? Do you mean it's the beginning of the test or it's the end of the test? Because if it's the beginning of the test, then isn't that too late? Because I think we always associate the shut door with, yeah, like it's too late in, yeah, I don't know if you're getting, like it's already too late for you to do anything in relation to the line of the Millerites and also the line of Matthew 25, because when you come to October 22, 1844, yeah, it's already done and dusted. When we come to the Sunday law in the dispensation of the early rain, it's already done and dusted in relation to that early rain. So I'm thinking when we come to this latter rain which we are in, then it's only done and dusted at Daniel 12:1. And I think Daniel 12:1 is just you revealing the test, but it's not like you're being tested. So if you have to be tested before, and that only takes me back to the loud cry. Because in Daniel 12:1, when the shadow has happened, what are you being tested about if you only, yeah, like the door is shut. Sorry for being repetitive, yeah.
That was good. A really good question. So you can see the model always puts the test at that major waymark. So that is when you're tested, okay? But you are tested on the previous formalization. That's the message that you're tested on, okay? So you're right. If you reject this message in 2012, you have failed the test, okay? But you might have Elder Parminder working with you twice a week in studies, and you get to 2013 and you're accepted. So by the time you get to the test, the shut door, you're okay. Okay. But so you're not actually tested on that day. That's not your shut door. You can see that from here and everywhere else, actually. Here's your shut door. If you see Cestius come and you think, oh, he's gone now, let's go back to bed. And then someone on the message keeps nagging you, get out of bed, we've got to flee. Look at these texts that Jesus said. You can still flee right up to 70 AD, the day before Titus comes. Okay, so you're not lost here, you're lost here. Okay, so there is your test. You are tested on that material. Now, a caveat. I'm going to say it this way, I'll tell you, Elder Tess got something wrong. Okay, and it's come to light because the thing she got wrong is being used to justify the wrong way to do this. I'll find it for you. Okay, so in one of the Vespers, in the second half of one of the Vespers, she starts teaching the repeating pattern and applying Daniel 11:41, many are overthrown. And she says, many are overthrown, but you're tested on this. So she's backing up what I've just taught, which means you're overthrown there. Okay, that's wrong. And go to the exact next Vespers or presentation that she does. Just watch the first few minutes, and she says, I presented that last week, but I'm backing away from that now. She doesn't say I got something wrong. She says, I've seen problems with it or something. Okay, because you can't move the test to the formalization, which is what she was trying to do. Okay, I can send you the, oh, I know it. Okay, any questions while I look for that?
So what you're marking, just the last bit, what you're marking at the Sunday law is the beginning of the test, if I get you correctly.
The Sunday law is not, it's just the test on 2021.
So is that the beginning or the end? Is that the end? I don't know. I think maybe my mind is conceptualizing the beginning of the end.
So it's the end of the early rain test on these waymarks. And now you're going to start with a message here, but it's an unsealing, it's not a test. This message, which is unsealed, the latter rain message, you're going to be tested on it in Daniel 12:1. So if you're going to say this is a test, the test is the end of this dispensation. It's a test that comes at the end of this dispensation. So I'm going to say the end, if I understand you correctly.
Okay. Thank you. I'll stop there.
Vespers.
So we have the
Okay.
Elderate Fellowship. The two more hands, one from the Elderate Fellowship.
Can I quickly make one more point on that? So
Of course.
I think the Vespers where Elder Tess made a mistake is the 18th of February 2022. It's called The Complex and Daniel 11:41. I think this must be it. And I'm being told start around the timestamp 1 hour, 1 minute, 25 seconds, where she says that, where she does that. And then I replied, yeah, but go to the next Vespers. Within the first few minutes, she backs off that and says, sorry, you know, there's some problems. Okay, next question, please.
Sorry, just a minute. What does she say in the previous? I've not gotten what the point is in the two sermons.
So in that Vespers, which I just said, she says, this is the test, but you're tested on this material. So you could be overthrown here. Okay. So in effect, if you think about it, what she's doing is she's moving the test to formalization, and that's wrong. Because actually you're overthrown here.
Okay.
And in the next Vespers, she says, oh, sorry, ignore what I did. I'm not going to carry on with
Okay, I get it.
that. Okay, go ahead. Is there a next question?
Yes, this is Manoa.
Sorry,
So
sorry,
I
the
wanted to
Elderate Fellowship was first. There's a sort of
Go ahead.
Elderate first, then he will come to you. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. Hi, Aaron and everyone. My question is related to Snyder's question, which is that if you go to the story of Matthew 25, when you come to the close of probation, waymark, you just reveal what you had before, like you just reveal what you had been tested before. So, and just in addition to what Snyder has, if I use the concept of typology, we have this quote we've been using, Great Controversy 343, I think 344, where it says that in every age there is a new development of, COL 127, I think, that in every age there is a new development, there's a present truth, like a new development of a message for the people of that generation. And if I take a generation to be a dispensation, like a plowing dispensation, the early rain dispensation, the latter rain dispensation, each dispensation will have its development of message, which will test the people of that dispensation. Now, if we cut these dispensations and like overlay them, we will have 1989 to 2001, and then we'll have another line below that, which is 2001 to the Sunday law, which is 2024, and then as we go like 2024 to close of probation, and then close of probation to the second advent. If we do that, then if we have 1989 to 2001, and if we cut it, because now this is repeating pattern, then you see that 2001 is just an end of something. If it is an end of something, I don't know how it can be a test, because now you are coming to an end of something, a message that already developed, and then it edits formalization, and then 2001 in that case will just be an end, and then you'll have another line, which is the Harley Rain from 2001 to 2024. You cut it because it's typology, it's not progression. And from 2001 to 2024, 2024 is just the end. And if it's the end, I don't know how it can be a test. For me, I think the arrival of that, the like 1980, if I take 1989 to 2001 dispensation, 1989 is the arrival, and then we'll have the increase of knowledge, and then formalization is 1996, and then from 1996, that's where the test will occur, and it will end at 2001. So for the waymarking question, I think if we take the issue of the Sunday law in relation to the Harley Rain, that message develops and it has to test people at the loud cry. So I'm not sure if if I'm not sure about that approach, you can respond.
So you're saying you don't believe Elder Tess when she says it's a test?
I mean, the problem I had was like, if you go to the beginning waymarks, if you cut the lines, if you take typology, then those beginning waymarks are just arrival of messages. And if they are arrival of messages, I don't know how they can be tested.
So do you believe Elder Tess when she says it is a test? You're saying no. Well, you said no, so we'll leave it there. If you don't believe Elder Tess, this is Elder Tess's. This isn't Ellen White or Parminder. Elder Tess innovated this. So I understand she took an original model, unsealing increase of knowledge formalization test, Boston Concord Exeter test. But she's the one that did the repeating pattern and called it a test.
Yeah, like I agree.
So I just quickly finish. So if she calls all of these a test, and this is the way she taught it, as I say, I've never watched anyone else, then if you don't believe her model and that she says it's a test, then that's fine. We can do that.
No, I believe what she thought, but for me, I thought she said the test is at the formalization, not at the shutdown.
No, we all know, I'm going to say the mantra, Boston Concord Exeter test. We all say that. Unsealing increased knowledge formalization test. That's how she taught it. She coined the phrase. So I'll just leave it at that because I've already explained how it is a test for about an hour, if that's okay. Because you can always go back and rewatch it and how I've explained that is a test, rather than me repeating it here for 10 minutes or something, if that's okay. Someone asked in the chat, I did actually see this one. What's being unsealed here? I have no idea. Stop asking difficult questions. So as I say, this is Elder Tess. I didn't innovate in this. I said a million times, I can't figure things out for myself. And that's all she told me. So I don't know what is the unsealing here. Okay, next question.
Then Philip Atini.
Okay, thank you, moderator. I thank you, Haron, for the presentations. I have mine's not like a question, but it's also a question. I say when we go back to the first presentation, talk about how the death of Navalny is not a defeat to Russia. But by the time I had have that information, so I had to go to myself and look into the materials, also look into the past history. I looked to the death of Christ and see how the death of Christ was the victory for the church. And I also looked for before the Reformations, there were these people, the John Wycliffe's, how the death of Wycliffe become the orchestration or the start of the Reformations. So I was wondering when you and I realized that is really true, because when Navalny died, the informations that were his memos, they came out. His memos came out, and they were, dispersed by his wife all over. And those memos, even we read them here, we got them in our groups, and we read those memos. So according to me, I saw that there is, according to Putin's, seem like he has achieved something, but the way it has actually revealed the true nature of the Putin's to the outside worlds, because Putin's exclaiming democracy, but few people know that he is not democracy. He's not the country. He's not running country in a democratic way. So it became apparent that really this guy is 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 not a good person. So to me, I saw that as a defeat of Putin internally. And just to add it on that, because you said before, you don't see it like that. That is one. Two.
Can I ask you one first? Because I can't hold things in my head too long.
Okay.
It happened when you get to my age. So the death of Christ is a completely different story. Christ overcame sin in the flesh. You know the story. I don't need to preach to you the gospel. It's not, Navalny dying is not the same as Christ dying. I could explain it, but I think it's...
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying in terms of the, when you put them on the line, that's not what I'm saying. I am saying, I'm just trying to compare how the death of the Navalny has actually impacted the death or the defeat of Putin's, because Putin's become, everyone have to see now Putin's differently.
Okay.
Because he's not who he claims he is.
Yeah, if I can deal with that. Putin killed many political opponents before that. A few of them were in London. Lukashenko, I can't remember. You can just see a guy in hospital with a bald head. He's killed lots of people. You can just go to a sort of a PBS documentary or something. Everyone knew he was bad. Everyone knew he was bad when he invaded Ukraine. That's when he was made a pariah state. I think the most sanctioned country in the world. I think he overtook North Korea and Iran. He was ostracized from the G8. They all knew he was bad long before there. And believe me, no one thinks he's practicing real democracy. You can ask, okay, I only know one person who's Russian living in Russia, okay? But from what I hear, reports back from my brother who's been living there 5 years or something, he says, everyone in Russia knows he's a dictator. They know what he does. They know he kills opponents, but they're fine with it. The attitude towards leadership is completely different, okay? I won't go into it because it's not part of this study, but everyone knew how bad Putin was long before 2024, and he killed people before Navalny too. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. To leave that, I'm not going to respond to that again. I want to talk about the test. The way I don't know whether I pick differently, because how I understood it in the past, when we come to the arrival of the message, Boston, Exeter, and Boston as Exeter, and then the test. So when we arrived at 2001, the first thing that I realized when we say those big waymark at the test is that they are the point where you are tested. That's what is in my mind. So at that point, you are tested. But at that point, you are not being given a test. You are not being given a test, but you are tested. It means that the results of what you have been tested is now out. The results is now out. So that is what that's what I see, especially when you go to 1844. You realize that in 1844, the behaviors of the people then, when Christ is not coming, is not something that is just coming. It's because they had not actually been on board with people, but they cover up everything. So it means that they had not actually believed the message before, and so they joined the ranks of the scorners. They begin to scorn the people who truly believe the message, because people went back and checked everything that they had been following and realized that truly they had been following something that is genuine. And so why? That was their question. So when I see, according to me, how it has formed itself in my mind all along, yes, of course, it is true that it is the test is always on that waymarks that you put it there, but how it formed itself in my mind is always that is a point where you are tested. It means that your results are out, but then you did not sit the paper. That is not where you sit the paper for a test. So I take where you sit a paper for a test to the formalization of the message. So you sit a paper for the test okay, at the formalization of the message. That's how I
Okay.
that's how I see it. And remember, before 2001, Adventists were given the time of the In magazines. In 1996, they rejected the time of the In magazine. And you know, the behaviors of the Adventism, the spiritual formations in 2001 were the results. Okay, so to me, that's what I'm just seeing. I'm seeing it is also making sense when you say the waymarks before that test that we know, because it's just a test. It is not tested. You know, it is not a past tense, but to me, I want it to be past tense so that it actually become a results of what you are being tested upon. So what I'm saying, when you arrive at Sunday law, you are now, the results is not the results of the message that arrived at Sunday law. It's the results of the message that is started, okay, before Sunday law, okay? That is the results that you are that you are getting. But when you come to Sunday law, you have a different message arriving, okay? And that different message is arriving and is going to increase and is going to be formalized. So that is a point of the third angel message, and you know the third angel message is connected to the mark of the beast, the image of the beast. So it means just later, not at exactly 2000, not exactly where you mark the Sunday law, but later in the future, there is going to be formalization of the message, which is going to be the mark of the beast or the image of the beast form. That is what I suggest. And I think this is what I also got this from how I have been following the message, is not also from myself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else?
Emma?
Aaron, I think my point is similar to Philip's, but I wanted to make 2 points. One of them is that the original model of Boston, Concord, Exeter, from the first top line there, is not really how we apply it in all the other lines. So it does give us a pattern, Boston, Concord, Exeter, but Boston, Concord and Exeter were exactly the same. There was no increase of knowledge because that whole history was the formalization of that story. So when you get the Boston, July 21st, August 1st saying exactly the same thing, August 14th saying exactly the same thing, it's not an increase of knowledge how we apply it later in the other lines. We don't get more information, it's the same information. And then yes, it's shown at the last waymark. So I don't think that's a particular fit for purpose as our benchmark of how it works. So that was my first point. The second point is I think the complexity around the Sunday law waymark being a Boston is the fact that it marks an end and a beginning, which I think is what everyone's struggling with, and how we use the word test. So yes, of course, everybody would agree you're tested on the previous information you have received. And I think Elder Terry's saying that as well. But the difference I see between what you're saying and what she's saying, it seems to me, is you need information to make decisions, right? So you can't be tested on something till you have the information. So the formalization marks the point where you have the information to say whether you'll stand on it or not. So using just say 1989 to 96, we got the reform lines, we've got Daniel 11, Elder Jeff puts it in a book in 96, and now you've got information to make a decision whether you're going to stand on all that information he's given you or not. And then there's a shut door of some kind, and we can call that a test, but really you've got everything you need and you're making decisions at the formalization in one sense. So, and when you look at the Cestus model 66, they're required to act now on that information. They've got all the information they need. They've got to flee Jerusalem when they see that sign. So that's the way I think that Elder Terry's using it, saying, so is the Sunday law waymark marking the end of a test or the beginning of a test? And I think that's where the discrepancy lies. So yes, on one side, it marks the end, but it also marks the beginning. So before, we'd have conceptualized that's the test, that's the end, that's it for us. Right at Sunday law, we're saying we're tested, we get the seal of God or the mark of the beast. And she's saying, no, the Sunday law marks the beginning of that unsealing of that information you need to make that decision at the formalization, because you haven't got all the information you need about the Sunday law yet to make that decision until you get to the loud cry. So I think she's not saying something different from you. She's just saying that the Sunday law marks the beginning of that test, and you're saying, no, I think it marks the end. Does that make sense?
So this Boston is an unveiling of a message that tells you about Daniel 12:1.
No, it tells you about the Sunday law, whether that's the national Sunday law or the, see, that's the discrepancy, Sunday law or worldwide Sunday law. It's telling you about.
This doesn't tell you anything, hardly. It doesn't tell you anything here Miller's not even, the unsealing here is just line upon line. So the unsealing in 2014, or pick anyone.
Yeah, you don't understand it yet.
Yeah, this is an unsealing on 1850. On August 11th, 1840 is nothing about slavery.
So your logic is that she's saying it's an unsealing about the worldwide Sunday law, really, at
Yeah.
Daniel 12:1.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when you think about that, that 1888 model doesn't really fit today, because patriarchal countries around the world were in existence with all their patriarchal cultural laws or whatever before Trump was elected. So I don't even know how you would actually, how does it look that the Sunday law goes country by country around the world after 2024?
I don't know, and that's the thing. That's why I think someone was asking you in the chat, what does that unsealing look like of this message we've got now? Because
Yeah,
we can see it's going to the world, but the world's being affected by Trump's doctrine, so we can see that it's agitating everyone worldwide in a sense, but it doesn't have the same character. So I was going to ask you that if it's the election for the Americans that tests them, we would expect that pattern to be copied. Perhaps it's elections in every country or something, but we know it's not going to be like that. So what exactly? And I think this goes back to what exactly is the Sunday law, what exactly is the mark of the beast. So you're saying it's past and it's gone, but how does that test me in England or other people in other parts of the world? We don't see it has the same characteristics. So we've got something wrong because it's not the same.
That's all Tess told me.
Right.
And I didn't ask her, how does it go around the world? Because she was about to present it.
Right.
She taught me all of this in March 2021.
Okay.
Because she saw January the 6th, 2021, 2 months later, we're doing our private thing. Anyway. And yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So I get your logic totally that it's, that it should be the culmination of and that's why we're all wrestling that it's been moved, I think, to the formalization, because it's like, well, what are we saying about this? And I think it's bringing up questions about what is this Sunday law? How does it work elsewhere if that's the way it is in America?
I just don't think you can use the 1888 model. For example,
no, you can't use the Sunday law model. You can't use Sunday as the model.
No, you can't. It's not Sunday, and it's not a law. So how can you use the 1888 Sunday law model?
You can't. So where are we getting our information? That's the challenge.
Go back over other people's material.
Yeah.
But the thing is, in this dispensation, so no new message in a harvest. I know we can use it loosely, but this dispensation, the latter rain is poured upon the 144,000 with plants, but it's a message to the Nethinim. But we're not giving a message to the Nethinim.
No.
So I'm okay with just following what Parminder's doing right now. We don't have a message for the Nethinim. So we're not developing books or videos to reach our family and friends.
So what is the loud cry? We don't even know what it is, really.
Well, it doesn't exist.
No, not in the way we conceptualize it.
We're not going to give it.
No,
so
no,
why
we're
would
not doing anything.
Why would God give us a whole syllabus from the news and from articles and stuff to bring to the Nethinim? And we spend hours studying it and don't bring it to the Nethinim.
No, we're not.
I don't think, God's not going to give us a loud cry message. Or it's just purely internal.
Yeah.
Which means Elder Parminder will give it eventually or something. But he seems to be just tying up loose ends on the nature of humanity, diet, things like that. Because
so what are you saying is affecting there at the loud cry?
If we're that close to Daniel 12:1 when there's no new message, why not just tie up some loose ends and then sit back because we're all sealed for eternity?
But we've marked the harvest, okay. But the harvest of 144,000 is from that point to that point, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
and you can't lose your eternal salvation here. So these tests, like you can't fail that test. You can't see Jesus in the clouds and go, I'm not going.
No, you can't, but hold on.
Yeah. And as far as this is concerned, this is quite a close match because the increase of knowledge is exactly the same as the formalization. But you're saying that the unsealing is also exactly the same.
Yeah.
So here you've got three-way marks, all the same material.
Yeah.
You've got two-way marks. But all I'm saying Elder Test did with this is use it to show Lost and Conquered Exeter test. And he tested on Exeter. But I see your point. You could also be tested on the increase of knowledge, but that's true because you're also tested on the 25-20.
You're tested everywhere on the line. You're tested at every point.
Yeah.
Have you accepted it or not to move to the next one? And that's the complexity, that it's not that straight. I mean, it's not that simple in the way you're trying to model it, I think, to a degree.
Okay.
So
you just think of this as 1 year in university. This is your first year, second year, and third year in university.
yes,
So you learn the syllabus, and now you've got the whole syllabus, but here you don't. So you can't really say you're tested only on the increase of knowledge. But here you've got your whole syllabus. You learn everything you need to know. And then the teacher says, right, no more classes for 3 weeks. You just go home and learn this and come back on October the 20th for your exam. And you sit your exam here, which is what I think the previous person said.
so maybe the issue is that was the test, the National Sunday Law for America, which we've all conceptualized is going to affect everyone in the world, which it doesn't until the worldwide one. So now it's going to the world, to each country in some way. So we are now all having to face this misogyny, equality, you know, who do we want to serve as a government level? So the two things I think we've got in tension is this is about institutions, but it's also about individuals. But we focused on it being individual, and it's really about institutions and the work, what the governments are doing, and we're having to understand that. So this is where it's like, well, I wasn't tested on November 5th or whatever. So that personalization of it means we don't want to, we're struggling, but it won't be personalized for every country in the world because it's America first and then everywhere else. So it's coming to everywhere else now, culminates at. But as we've just said, it's not about methods, it's not about giving a loud cry, it's not as personal as we had made it. So maybe it's all about institutions and it's not about us at all. So that's the challenge.
So 2 points. There might be some election in Denmark, and I wouldn't even know about it. So I can't be tested on a Denmark election.
No.
But everyone in the world was watching the American election on November the 5th.
Okay.
So I'm just going to say loosely, and everyone had an opinion. If I was in America, I would vote for, or not. So perhaps that's the way God looks at it. For example, on the individual model, we say the Nephilim, they don't need to come and join our movement. They can still be saved if they just pass their great test, which is patriarchy, homophobia, etc., gender equality. So it's just their mindset. We say they don't need to vote or whatever. Same as 1850. Not everyone in the whole of America came across an escaped slave. It's a corporate model, fugitive slave law. Individually, we're just going to have to say, well, God knows what you're thinking if you came across an escaped slave, that kind of thing. Another problem, it's not a problem, but another way of explaining the difference between corporate and individual is this is your final test. So you vote for Trump, and it's your final test in that after here, you can't change your vote. July 18, you could be saying, I'm going to vote for Trump. Then you see how bad he is, or something happens. And on November 5th, you vote for, is it Jill Green or someone? I say that because that's what my friend did. So you can't change your vote, but individually you can change your mindset and still be saved. The line of Noah is perfect. The shut door, you can't move it. And Noah's Ark is built, and the door is shut here. So you've got all this time to get on board. When the animals get on board, you can say, that's weird, but I'm still sticking with my family and friends. And then the day before they shut door, you can still jump on board.
Yeah, and the prophetic model doesn't take into account the individual because it's about an institution. So we know it's the close of probation for the Jews, as a group from 34 to 70, the destruction of Jerusalem comes, but after that, it doesn't mean no Jews can ever be saved again. We know that is just keeps going.
Exactly. If a Jew comes to you today and says, this message is amazing, can you teach me? You don't say, no, sorry, because your probation was over 2,000 years before you were born.
Yeah.
So
we know the individual model works differently from the institution. Okay, let other people speak.
Anyone else?
Sabina?
Okay.
Hello, Hiron. Again,
Hi.
my question is related to what you were discussing with Emma. How I understood Elder Terry marking the Sunday law as the image of the beast. As you said that you can't move the text from the Sunday law waymark to the round cry. So how I understood her, it's about the waymark, the message arrives, the mark of the beast. Then it's going to test as the round cry. So and maybe you are saying that the round cry, the test is there is about the worldwide Sunday law, which is Daniel 12:1. That's what you are saying. So my question is, the mark of the beast test, you are marking it as the previous dispensation, or where will you mark the test of the mark of the beast? So you can summarize what you are discussing with Emma. I didn't get the conclusion.
Okay. She made a point up here, but I don't think you're referring to that. And because it happened more than a minute and a half ago, I forgot. What did you say, Emma? Why?
So her question is, where are you marking? Because I was saying the difference between you and Elder Terry, she's marking the beginning of the Sunday law test and you're marking the end as the Sunday law. So I think Sabina's question is, where are you marking the mark of the beast test? And I think you're going to say it's January to November. It's that way, Mark, because you're saying that America's being tested and the whole world saw that test, so it impacted the whole world. Everyone and it had a viewpoint on whether Trump should win or not, and Americans literally had to decide whether they were going to choose Trumpism or not.
That's not unusual because 2016 election is ipsos, it's a waymark. So we have elections as waymarks.
Yeah. Did that help, Sabina?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Aaron, there are no more questions for now. So perhaps you can proceed to, I guess, conclude or go however you wish to go.
I've got a burning burden to do something else. This is going to take 5 minutes. So the only other point that we didn't cover today is I said July 18 can't be Sunday law because only half of America is represented. And Elder Terry says only half of America is the King of the North. It's just the mega movement. Is that correct? So these are the battles between the King of the North and the King of the South. 2016 was Ipsus, 2018 was Heraclea, 2019 was Ascalon. In Daniel 11, it's known as Raphia. 2021 was Beneventum. In Daniel 11, known as Panium. 2024 was Argos. Red is Republican out here, isn't it? I think. Who's the King of the North in 2016? So that fits. The King of the North is Mega. Okay. In 2018, Trump was still the King of the North, still the president. 2019, he was still the King of the North, the president. It all fits perfectly. Beneventon, who was the King of the North? Who fought Panium, the information war at the beginning of the Ukraine war? Biden. So this can't be true, simple as that. And at Argos, well, I'm open because I'll say Trump. I'm okay with that. I'm genuinely okay with it. So I think we've already run with this. And I think, because I still only watch Pominda, but I think we're like developing it, we're looking at it, and I'm saying it's on sifting, what's it called? Foundation, sifting sand. I don't even know if the original theory is true. In fact, it isn't. You can just see it isn't. It would be a bit like our Sabbath arguments. They're beautiful, they're eloquent, they're broad, and they're deep, and they're vast. But if there was a verse in the Bible where Jesus says, the Sabbath has now changed to Sunday, our beautiful, eloquent message on Saturday Sabbath, it would just be wrong. So you can develop this as much as you like, but I'm saying it's just wrong, unless you can answer that. Okay, the end. Shall I close in prayer? Or any thoughts on that quickly? Okay, I'll close in prayer. Almighty God in heaven, we thank you for the message, we thank you for the movement, and we pray your Holy Spirit will be with us even unto the end. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you so much.